So we're here in Hendersonville, Tennessee with my friend Greg Pennington at his shop. And Greg is a maker of traditional Windsor chairs and other fine furniture, right?
Yeah,
so
that's basically.
But the Windsor chairs are the big thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the bread and butter.
Yeah.
And teaching. He teaches people how to make Windsor chairs.
Yeah.
And this is where it all starts. We're out here sort of in the log yard on the outskirts.
Yeah, this is where the Windsor chairs start. We've got white oak here that I split up into parts. We rob the boards, follow the grain to make the parts strong. So you have to follow the grain or you know, bad things happen. So basically it's just sledgehammers and wedges. I get logs up in Kentucky and we break them down. You know, we bust them in half and in quarters and in eighths, and we split them up into parts for spindles and the backs that we steam bend. And
so some parts start green and are split out.
The green wood is what you want for chair making. It's easier to use. It's more user friendly. It steam bends better because you've got the moisture in the wood, which transfers the heat. The heat is what bends the wood. So, but yeah, this is basically, you know, you can cut a tree down and a week later you have a chair. So it's a pretty cool process. And I have a sawmill, but this has to be done with axes and wedges to follow the grain and to get that inherent strength of the tree. It really is.
And really the only piece you use that's dry is the seat.
Right, right. And it's green lumber. It's been air dried. But you start out with a dry board on the seat. So yeah, if you want to come up here, I'll show you what some of the other aspects of the shop or shops.
You've got quite an operation going on here. And in just a couple of years since I've been coming here, it's only gotten bigger.
Yeah, well, I think this is about as big as I can get. The wife will tell you I'm not allowed to put up any more buildings. So but if it's connected to the existing building, anyway, that's another subject. So she probably will watch this. So this is the Timber King sawmill. This replaced the Wood-Mizer sawmill that I used to have, and it's beneficial to me in the fact that I use these to break down the maple that I use for turnings. And I can cut little short logs and line up the pith of the log off the bed of the mill and saw right down the grain. And I've got a couple of maple logs over here now that I've got to get milled up. And I'll cut 9/4 slabs, and then I'll break those down in the wood shop behind the wall here.
And the maple is
2x2s.
The maple's for the legs, the turned legs of the chair.
Yeah, the maple takes really good detail. You know, it's great wood to paint, and it just turns beautifully. And these are green as well, so they aren't quite as wet as the white oak, but after I mill those up, they air dry for maybe a couple of weeks to get the free water out of the wood. And then I'll turn them. I don't want to be turning these legs and water splattering up on the wall. It's a little too wet.
Right.
So, but the sugar maple is fantastic for Windsor chairs, and that was typically or historically what they used most of the time was, you know, hard maples, red maples, and things of that nature. So
nice.
That's also why they're painted, because all the different woods too.
Yeah.
So you know.
So you have maple in the legs, and seats are
usually white pine. Around here you also have basswood or poplar, sassafras I use a lot.
And then the strong white oak for the thin parts, like the
spindles and the steam bent backs and crests and things of that nature.
So in any given chair, you've probably got at least 3 or 4 different kinds of wood.
Yeah, and around here the white oak is plentiful. They grow on trees. I mean, you know, they're just everywhere. And but you know, in different parts of the country, it's still a regional craft in a sense where you wouldn't want to ship a log all the way across the country to build a chair in California. Maybe you would, but it just wouldn't be that beneficial to you. So even in the 21st century, I think this is still a regional craft.
Yeah, and it's kind of close to where the trees grow that you need.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes things easier. And teaching this has, you know, evolved into trying to source logs and materials for people that are having trouble getting it. And you can break down smaller parts and send them across the country, but for the most part, it's just a pleasure to walk out and bust up a fresh log. I mean, just starting from that point, to me, it makes this craft worth it, I think. But
You're making me want to come back and build another
yeah,
chair.
well, you need to. It's a lot
Oh.
of fun. It's a slippery slope.
Kind of like the sawmill and the woodshed, right?
Yeah. This is
Speaking of slippery slopes.
this is a never-ending collection of termite food, I guess. I've got to actually start making some stuff. I've got some ideas coming down the pike for some blanket chests and some highboys and things like that. I've got these super wide, beautiful boards that just sit here and dry and don't go bad as long as you keep them dry. And
blanket chests need a nice set of forged and filed
exactly.
hinges.
Yeah, I feel a collaboration coming on here. So yeah, this is the wood storage area. This is basically 2 separate pole barns that I have built over the years, and this one's pretty full, but it's everything in here right now is dry and is ready to use for furniture. But for the most part, I'm using the split out parts for chairs.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good stuff in here, and I sell a board or two occasionally, but this is not my main business.
Right.
But you have a sawmill, logs seem to
Take
have
advantage
a way
of
of
it,
finding
yeah.
you, and they take a neighborhood, they put in a neighborhood, and there's basically free logs sitting around if you have to take advantage of. But
Nice.
so yeah, good raw material. It's good. It's easy to match boards when you take them all out of the same log, and it's air dried lumber to me is a lot more pleasurable to work than the kiln dried stuff. That
Is it just more stable or?
there's that, and then there's the fact that it's less dusty. It's doesn't have the tension built up in it from being case hardened by drying too fast on the outside and leaving it damp in the middle.
Interesting.
The color's better because it doesn't get cooked out. The big commercial kilns will destroy the color of walnut. For example, walnut can have this beautiful purplish color, and that just kind of goes away to a grayish brown, in the kiln dried stuff. So it's such a pleasure to use air dried stock. And you just got to be patient, let it dry longer. One day maybe I'll have a solar kiln or something, but for now, this works well. The metal in this barn really heats up and dries this wood out nicely and at a good rate.
Yeah.
It doesn't dry it out so fast, so you don't get a lot of instability from over drying too quickly.
Yeah, I am constantly having regrets for not having just put aside lumber, because you're talking about being patient to let it dry.
Yeah.
And a couple of years goes by quicker than you think it's going to.
Yeah, next thing
and
you
then
know.
2 years down the road, you're like, well, now I kind of wish I had put that lumber back to dry.
That's why we talked about building a front door for my shop. We need to think ahead and get this timber acclimated to the shop. So yeah, that could be fun.
Well, very cool.
Well, where would you like to head next? You want to go
let's-
around or this?
However you
okay.
want to take
well,
us.
Just watch your step through here. It can be a little messy, but I don't know if you want to go in there or not. So if you look right here, there's some 27-inch wide sassafras.
Wow.
And so one-piece seat blanks, and this stuff carves beautifully and smells amazing. That was one log I bought at the log yard. It was dirt cheap. There's just not much retail value for sassafras. So when they get the big logs in, they always call me, and
Nice.
I'm there taking
It has
advantage of them. So
such a delicious, spicy smell.
yeah, it really is refreshing to carve. It gets lost over time, but you can see I've got ash and
Surely you've got
cherry.
something in here to make a door out of.
Oh yeah, there's probably something hanging around, I'm sure. But yeah, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. Turn this light on over here.
So this is the power tool shop.
Yes, this is the machine shop, the tools, the power tool shop, whatever you want to call it. It's a mess right now because I've been playing around with spraying milk paint finishes.
Cool.
And it's put this layer of black milk paint dust everywhere. So just be aware of that when you. But But yeah,
And
so,
this is where you do all your turning, I
yeah,
guess?
yeah. A lot happens out here with breaking down the maple into 2x2s, and then I'll round them up into rounds like this, and then just put them in racks.
I see some waiting over here.
Yes, this is for the class that's going to start Sunday, the riding arm class. I've got one chucked up here to start turning. And so I'll turn all the parts for the students. That's just something that's just way too hard to teach in a week. And this little contraption here is a little light bulb kiln. So if you look in here, it's just rigid foam duct taped together with some plywood. There's a light bulb in here, so when you turn it on, it produces about 140 degrees, and it super dries the parts. So
You can look in there if you want.
we see like this leg here, this is the tenon that goes up into the seat, and you just super dry the tenon only, so that this will shrink down. You glue it, split and wedge it, and then the moisture left over from the leg will go up into that tenon, which has been shrunk down and dried to no measurable moisture content, and make a locking joint that will last
Nice.
much longer than I will. So hopefully that's the goal anyway.
Nice.
So yeah, this was, you can see here's my son Logan. This was his first chair. It looks a little rough because he only put one coat of finish on it, and then it kind of got left out on the front porch. One of his friends was showing, or Logan was showing his friends how strong these spindles are, and so one of his friends grabbed it and gave it a test and snapped one of the spindles.
Oh man.
He went a little too far with it, but so we replaced the spindle, and Logan didn't want to paint it. He wanted to remember that situation, so I thought that was kind of cool. But so yeah, I've got 3 lathes set up out here, so I could teach a turning class if need be. There's the bandsaw that we use to break down stuff. Table saw doesn't used a whole lot unless I can ever get to that blanket chest that I've been meaning to build. And,
Yeah.
And then I'll run seat blanks through the planer, 20-inch helical planer, and then the joiner, if I have to edge glue up a seat or something, it's good for that. This is the steam box. It's just a plywood box that has a wallpaper steamer stuck into it, and that's where the parts go into do the steam bending. It's
And the steam bending is for your arms and crests
Yes,
and things
yes.
like that. So this
Yes.
piece here
right. This
started straight.
yeah, it's just a straight,
straight
piece of
piece
wood.
of
That's
wood.
what we're splitting out in the yard there, and call it riving, and using a particular froe that I've got. It's really nice. I don't know if you've seen this before, but yeah, number 1, right? That's your froe. So yeah, it's this is a break box, is what they call that, and it's where you take spindle blanks or the arm blanks and use the froe and the mallet to rive the pieces into usable parts. Once they're broken down in here, then we go up to the 3rd and final shop, the timber frame shop, where we start sitting on the shave horse and actually making chairs. So
Very cool. Well,
I
let's
know
see that shop.
yep, let's go.
I can't lie, it is kind of my favorite part
Well,
of the whole place.
It's a lot different.
Although I very much enjoy the work that those big machines save as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love that romantic notion of doing all this by hand, but there is that kind of idea that you have to preserve your joints, your elbows, and when you're splitting 8 to 12 foot long logs by hand, which I don't have anything that can do that other than by hand, yeah, you just tax your elbows enough. And I've had little issues with some swollen joints, you know, working them too much. So
It's just a question of what do you want to spend your time doing,
yeah, yeah.
and
if-
how many whatever or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
if-
How many things do you want to make? You know.
Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish?
And you know, building chairs one at a time, you know, in my shop 1 a week would be fine, but I'm basically building 4 chairs a week, or at least parts to those chairs when I have students here. I'll have anywhere from 4 to 6 students.
Yeah.
And so I'm, you know, having to process a lot of parts, and it's, you know, as long as it doesn't, you know, compromise the piece. I'll use technology to make it easier. You know, I don't
Yeah.
have a CNC machine or anything, but you know, the planer to plane down the seat blanks, you know, chainsaws to buck the parts up and of course the sawmill for the maple for the leg turnings, and So it's a good balance of technology and you know,
I love it.
and if you look at the draw knife wall over here, you know, I've got a few.
Just a few.
There is nothing that follows grain better than a draw knife.
Yeah.
And even in the 21st century, I don't know what else could do that job better. And
So sometimes a machine's the right tool for the job, and sometimes the hand tool is.
exactly. And yeah, I mean, just like making spindles, these little spindles in the backs of these chairs are so thin that you can't possibly turn these on a lathe. And because the strength of these rely on following that grain, you know.
Yeah.
So the draw knife does that beautifully. It picks up the hot spots and it just follows the grain to a T. I mean, you can adjust it to bypass the grain, you know, but I mean, it does it perfectly. That and the spoke shave, and then using the shave force, it's just a beautiful combination of
Simple.
simple tools
Simple
and chair
tools.
making. But lost my train of thought there, but so yeah, this is it. This is basically the classes start. You know, day one they're making spindles. We fill the shavings up on the floor. You can't even see the floor usually after day one. And then day two, where they're doing something different. They're on the benches over here, carving seats and drilling and reaming for the legs. Day three, they're doing the assembly of the undercarriage. And day 4 and 5, they're finishing drilling and putting chairs together. So
Wow.
this particular chair is the one we're starting next week. I've got 4 people coming from basically all over the country. One guy driving from Wisconsin, I think,
Wow.
to build the riding armchair.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, will all of those have the 2 drawers, or will some of them
Yes,
maybe have
they,
one?
you
or-
know, they have the option. Most people want to do the 2 drawers. They'll do a carved knuckle here instead of the flat arm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they usually day 7. It's a 7-day class, and day 7 they're starting their dovetails. Typically, that's a pretty personable thing, you know, cutting dovetails. I'll show them how I do it, but they may have a particular way they like to do it, and they can finish that at home.
Nice.
But they will leave with the, you know, the chair completed, as long as they get it in their car.
Yeah. Right. Very, very
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells good in here. I'm almost ready for the coffee I'm smelling.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, it's ready.
Oh.
Yeah, this time of year I miss the wood stove going when you get the, you know, the hickory burning in the wood stove or something. But you always have a unique smell when you're busting down the white oak. You have that pungent, people call it pickle juice smell, maybe. You know,
I love the smell. There's
and then you
nothing
have
like
the
it.
white pine when you start carving the seed. It's just a whole different thing. And so yeah, there's always good, interesting smells in here. You know, but it's a pretty simple place to come to work. You know, 30 feet from the house, and I've got people that can stay upstairs sometimes. You know, I don't really advertise that, but I guess I just did. But so yeah, there's like a little woodworking library upstairs, nice loft area, and yeah.
Let's see this new porch.
Oh yeah. April Wilkerson came and helped me build this porch. It's pretty user friendly now.
You had a what was it, an 8-foot porch?
Yeah, it
before,
was
but-
8 foot, and the boards ran this way, you know, parallel to the building. And I always wanted boards that ran traditionally this way, so you could have a rocking chair that wouldn't go you know, over the board. So it is a
Yeah.
lot better. Although I don't even have a rocking chair out here. But so we went from 8 foot to 12 foot, and the only thing I kept were these posts. These are white oak posts I milled up years ago, and that's the only thing that exists from the other
Cool.
building, so, or other porch.
Well, as usual, I love seeing your shop.
Well,
Appreciate you having us out,
really
showing
enjoyed
us
it.
around.
Thanks for coming. Always good to see you guys.